To further expand this channel, I thought it would be great to start playtesting and giving feedback on some different indie games. To kick that off, I'm going to start with this game here, Mages and Monsters. This is a game that I personally have enjoyed very, very much. As you can see, I have most of the upgrades. Um, it's a very solid game, fairly well polished. Um, Overall, it's really a great goal for an indie game. So I figured it'd be a good place to start on a positive note. I'm going to start with a new game. This is a sort of roguelike style game. Each run is going to be different. 10 characters, started with only 6, I want to say, so been a lot of expansion. Um, really, each character is very, very unique. Each one starts with a different spell, the exception being these two that don't have spells. For this run, let's go with this one. Very solid spell, gives a slight buff to summoning spells. Very, very solid character. This one, I think, is honestly the strongest, just because of these bonuses very quickly make up for not having spells, and also not having to invest in spells lets you strengthen your units a lot more. But the spellcasters are a little bit more interesting, so we're going to go with those. So this one, or I would say this one for spellcasters are probably the most powerful. We're going to go with this guy, though. I'm going to go with the arena, keep it nice and simple. And archers. So, game is pretty easy to start out. Get 3 choices each round. I'm not going to do Reign of Death. I'm going to go with some cultists. Get that money boost. And I like his little boosted income thing here. The more gold you have at the end of a round, the more gold you'll get. So I usually start my games with pretty lean economy builds, trying to get up to that 700 bonus as quickly as possible. And that adds up really, really fast. So it will take a couple rounds before you get to that 10 gold each round bonus, which means don't buy anything for a while. But once you get to that point, your money grows really fast. And this guy is really, really great because of the buff to these summoning spells, which makes them really, really powerful. And they're really, really useful. I personally love dropping. I'll drop the archers behind enemy lines. It's absolutely devastating. Let's go Chain Lightning. Another very solid spell. It doesn't hurt your units. All of the spells in this game are very, very reliable, very distinct. See. Proper application of the spell. Proper application of the spells is absolutely make or break in a lot of runs. I'm going to go with Frost Shock, so now I have all of my spells built out. So while I did say I want to go pretty lean, I'm going to go upgrade so I can get level 2 spells. I go pretty heavily on the spells, because they are very, very useful, especially late game with these two. If your units start getting a little lean, you can beef up your numbers really easy with the summons. It can make a huge difference. Lightning, you want to try to drop it in groups, so it can jump around. Some ice. We'll do some melee again. So that buffs the. You can see, I'll show you again, but each round, so you got your pick, and then there's a little gold pile next to it. So that means you get the gold and you get that pick. Kind of gives you, you got to pick and choose. What do you want? Do you want the higher reward, the more income, or do you want a better upgrade? And as you can see right now, with all of the gem upgrades I have, I'm blowing through this pretty easy. I'm going to start going for the higher coin point ones. Grab max units, and we'll do another round. Plus 29. So I usually avoid the gold because I prefer getting an upgrade with some gold. But if you're really trying to speed run the income or rush to higher level troops, gold is a really great option. I'm really glad that he included that in there. Plus the rerolls. Unlocking the rerolls is really, really nice if you're going for a specific build. Early game, before you have very many buffs, it can be kind of difficult. You're definitely going to lose a few runs before you win them. It takes some time and some practice. So see, we're already at plus 50 per round, which is a huge difference. Let's go with Elven Warriors. Boost my max units again. And I also like this. You can adjust the movement speed of your units. I personally just max everything out unless there's a particular unit I really want hanging back. At the moment, though, I want them all rushing forward. I want to get into that fight and clear it out as quickly as possible. Okay, we're at 600, so very close to that 700 mark where I'll start actually buying things. Each unit is very, very unique. I'll go through those as I unlock them. So we have elves. That's your starting ranged unit. Stats are pretty simple, pretty straightforward, especially at these lower ranks. Um, high range, low health, low damage, fast attack speed, lots of health. You can see this is almost 3 times, 4 times as much. About twice as much damage, but slow attack speed. Similar thing here. Again, low health, higher damage, fast attack speed with a dodge chance. That low health, though, really does not work in their favor. They're a rank 1 troop, so they go down pretty easy. Footmen, at these low levels, they're probably what you're going to want to be going for. Just because that damage reduction and high health makes them a great way to soak up damage, even at later stages. Cultists, they're good. They're just kind of hanging out here. If you really have to pick, I would stick to the footmen, the dwarves, and the archers. Those are a very solid set. I would probably avoid the elven warriors, unless you have something very specific you're going for. See, and then I can put the ranged units behind the enemy lines. That kind of draws some fire. Depending on the round and the enemy composition, they can actually just sit back there completely ignored. It's very, very underrated, very useful. See, I'm going to go with Footman. Let's get the highest bonus. And now I'm finally past that 700 gold mark. I can start buying stuff. I am going to go with... And so I don't want to go below 700. That's the thing. Because if I go below 700, I'm going to lose that high bonus tier there. So I'm going to make one buy right now. I'm going to go to tier 2 units. Tier 2 units, so whenever you unlock a new tier, you get 1 unit free, which is a nice little boost. So I have priests unlocked right now. Their big thing is they heal allies on death and boost their damage. Oh, look, there's a little first bit of feedback there. It gets cut off at the bottom. So I will try to contact them and see if we can get that fixed. So I mean that's another point of these videos, is to give constructive feedback, find these little tidbits. I've been told I have a habit of running into bugs, so I figured I'd use that blessing for good, and we've already found one. So pretty good so far. Let's see. I got a 50 gold window. I'll buy lifesteal. Lifesteal is really awesome if you're doing a melee build. It is only for the melee units. But once you get up to these tier 5 units, if you can get that lifesteal up to 100%, along with boosted health and boosted melee damage, it can make them extremely tanky. I highly recommend doing at least one run. Just build as hard melee as you can. It's very fun. Here we've got our first sort of boss enemy. As you can see, I shoot him up real fast. So this is a great example too. Is once you've learned how the game works, you can play it very consistently. Not very many curveballs going to be coming your way. But each character has a different build you're going to want to go for. There's the 2 different areas you can play in, and I think he's talked about a third. I'd be very excited to see if there's a third one, even if it's a DLC. I'd absolutely buy that. Definitely worth it. 3 options here for those now tier 2 units. We've got alchemists, which you've been seeing. I've been summoning with the range summon there. These are great. They've got a little bit of splash damage. Their short range makes them vulnerable, though, so I wouldn't rely on them if you can. More priests, and then centaurs. Centaurs are great because they have that cleave, so it's similar to the alchemist, but melee. They've got more health, though, so that's going to make a big difference. That cleave and that higher health combined with the lifesteal makes them a pretty solid unit, even at higher levels. And this also gives the most money, so I'm going to go with centaurs for now. Max units, always got to keep your max units up. There was an update recently that buffed this. At higher upgrades, it starts jumping to plus 20 units, which is very nice once you start getting to the end game and you're trying to be pretty conservative with your spending. Next, I'm going to go with tier 3 spells, because tier 3 and tier 4 is when these get really powerful. And I have a little extra wiggle room. I'm going to go with spell damage. Okay. So you can see we're starting to get to the point where my not taking too many casualties, but I'm starting to lose units pretty fast now. I'm going to go with the upgraded chain lightning, because that increased damage. That's a double damage boost. That's a huge difference, especially since each kill it lets jump again. And now we've got 200 gold to play with. And then the thing too to remember is once you go to the next tier of unit, you can't get the previous tier anymore. So if there is a specialized unit you really want to beef up your numbers with, you're going to want to time your upgrades. I'm not too attached to any of these ones. They're pretty similar to the tier 1s. These guys are pretty similar. So you've got kind of a melee fighter, which is going to be these two. These ones are kind of the tanky dwarven dudes. Um, these two, so these two kind of both line up with the Elven Warrior. They're pretty similar. They don't have a ranged resistance unit, so that's why tier 2 I don't really stick around too long. Tier 3, though, is when things get really interesting. So I have enough. I'm going to jump up to tier 3. And we now have these 5 new units. And I'm given a Plague Doctor. So, Plague Doctors are great at any rank because they leave behind a little toxic pool. So, regardless of how quickly they die, they're still going to deal a lot of damage. They're a unit I definitely max out their movement speed, and I'll probably actually slow everyone else down so that they can run in, they can die, they drop those poison pools, and it can start damaging all of the enemies. That'll also hopefully put the enemies kind of on top of those pools so they can, take out the Plague Doctors, advance a little bit, and then they'll be standing in those pools. Oof. Oof. Yeah, this is a pretty good run. Normally I'm not doing this well, but I'm getting some pretty solid upgrades. Let's head to, let's do spells and spell and a lifesteal. And here's the really nice thing is these the summon spells, they start with a delay, and as you level them up, that delay gets decreased. So now you can see with tier 3, there's no delay. Oh, that increased cooldown, that's new. That's a nice balancing touch. You can see, yeah, so like here, it's first 4 seconds of combat, can't be used, but here that limit is gone. And we've got tier 2 versus tier 3. So I'm going to boost like melee damage. Let's go. Okay, doing pretty well so far. I'm going to boost up my chain lightning. And let's unlock level 4 spells. And let's do another. There we go. So apprentices, standard range unit. They're pretty similar to archers. High range. They've got higher damage, higher health. They've still got that fast attack speed. Just all the range units are pretty solid. It's hard to go wrong with them in this style of game. Another point of feedback is options are really nice. Music volume, we can adjust. I keep mine low because my headsets are pretty loud. I'll turn it up a little bit so you guys can hear more. Effects, I want to turn down a little bit. Options. Here we go. So the speed, this is nice. Okay, so you can change the speed of the game if your spells are on cooldown. This is fantastic once you're comfortable with the game. You kind of know what's going on. Your strategy is pretty set, and you're not too worried about the fine details. And so, if all of your spells are on cooldown, it speeds up the gameplay, and you can see that pretty easily. If you haven't noticed, pay attention to this next round, and you'll see it right off the bat. As soon as all my spells are cast, the game speeds up to a much higher rate. I keep it at that 3 times speed. And then this buffer setting is how quickly does it return back to normal. So if you have a half second left on your spell cooldowns, that's when it'll turn back to normal speed. So I like that half second, so that gives me a heads up. Hey, you get a spell coming. Um, get ready. Especially with the summon spells, I focus very hard on the summon spells, meaning that 0.5 seconds is a good amount of time to see, okay, which spell is coming up and where can I drop it. Spell hotkeys, you can switch those out. I like it at default. It's just a pretty easy setup. You could bind them to your mouse or something if you wanted to. Another thing that's great is you can move the spells around. You couldn't do that on launch. As soon as he added that, I was so excited. So this is a developer that does listen to his community. He takes advice. He probably had that in mind to begin with, but showing that he actually responded to the community requests and added that, it's very good to see. That's what you want to see with a dev, especially someone that's I believe he's solo, makes this games themselves. Very well done. I've even seen some of the assets on H.io, which is really, really neat. I know I've seen the Minotaur. I don't know if I've seen the other critters. If I can find it again, I'll put a link in the description for this video, because I definitely like this game and I want to support the creator as much as I can. So, now this time, pay attention to that, the speed. You'll see that once I cast all my spells, you'll see the game accelerate if you haven't noticed that yet. So that acceleration makes for some really quick rounds. Like I said, it's fantastic if you're just kind of trying to get through it as quick as possible, especially if you're grinding gems. Um, Knights are fantastic. That reduced damage from ranged is amazing at later levels, especially times when there's a lot of ranged enemies. I'm going to grab Knights. Yeah, I need Knights. As nice as it would be to upgrade my ranged, Knights are very, very good to have. Let's upgrade health and upgrade range damage. Cherubs are neat. They've got that passive health regeneration. Um, if you're building into melee, that's going to be great. If you're not focusing your melee upgrades, they'll die pretty fast. Um, like I said, I focus on spells and kind of a ranged. Um, so I'm going to stick with my spells. Frost Shock is nice. So this upgrade, you can see it increases the affected area, increases frozen, and frozen units take additional damage. Only a couple spells can harm your own units. Frost Shock is not one of them, which also makes it really, really useful if you've got just a couple units that are swarmed. You can drop this down and they can clear it out. Let's do. Um, yeah, I'll do spell damage and spell cooldown. Ranged. So this switches it from the alchemists, which have the short range, to apprentices, which have long range. Let me see. Oh, I don't actually have any default alchemists, so I can't mouse over it. So that change, it boosts their damage a lot, but it's that increased range and attack speed that makes a massive difference. So if you're doing spells, I really suggest trying to get up to that tier 4 as quickly as possible. If you're not doing spells, um, you're going to want to go for the summons are still good because you can get some units going out. The freeze is great because you don't have to worry about damage. There's a couple of healing spells that are nice. There's a poison gas spell. Um, if you're not going to build into the spells, there are still spells that are really useful. So just kind of figure out what your play style is. Um, there's a good variety. I think you should be able to find something you enjoy pretty easily. It might take a couple runs, but you'll find something. Uh, they did a very, very good job in that respect. Okay. Spell damage is going way higher. So yeah, here's the Minotaurs. These are the ones I said I saw on itch.io. And I'll see if I can find that link, because I think it would be really cool to show that off and support them a little bit more. Cyclopses are one of the top tier ranged units. I'm definitely going to grab this upgrade. They're not a tier 4, they're actually a tier 5. So the summoning spell, it skips a tier. It goes Archer, Alchemist, Apprentice, and then goes straight to Cyclops. Versus the melee skips the low tier, and you start with the tier 2 bandits. Then it goes to the knights, the paladins, and the last tier, I think it's angels, which are a pretty solid unit as well. I'm not going to buy anything this round, I think. And then next round I'll get those next tier of units. Or actually, I want to do another spell upgrade. Spell damage is getting really high. Archangels, that's what the last upgrade for the melee is. So I'm going to grab that because it gives a lot of money. And now I'm going to save it for that next tier. And I am demolishing these rounds pretty quick. But like I said, that's because I've done this a lot. I've got a lot of the upgrades. It'll take you a bit, and then some of the waves are easier than others. It really does depend on your build. Some of the waves will look easy and will just shred your army. Some of them will look tough, and if you have the right setup of spells and the right units, you'll be able to handle it pretty easy. I'm going to grab apprentices. More units. Oh, there it is. So, see, it went from 10, now it's plus 20 units with each upgrade. That's really great at the end game. You do get fewer units per round at higher tiers. The units are a lot stronger, and this just means that you're not buying this nearly as much. Especially if you're doing a low tier run. If you are staying in that tier 1 or 2 where you're getting a ton of units each level, like you can see, I've got 6, 12. I think these ones comes in batches of 3. You're going to be buying this a lot if you're just doing hordes of low tier units. Banshees. This is one of those rounds I was talking about. Banshees are pretty tough, actually, and if you're not ready this round, can shred your units like paper. Griffins are fantastic. If you're building melee, they are a very awesome unit to have. You can see their damage increases each time they attack, and they've got that fast attack speed. So if you put a lot into health and damage and lifesteal, these can quickly become a very, very dangerous unit. Let's see. I've got 200 to play with still. I want to do another spell upgrade because I can. So, using summons, drawing them all into one spot, it drew them away from the rest of my units, and it let me just tear them apart. It's a really simple game, but strategy does play a surprising part in it, and I really appreciate the depth that he's brought to this style of game. I'm going to grab Chain Lightning. Final level of Chain Lightning, so that means the Frost Shock there is the only spell that I need to finish off. I am going to stick around in Tier 4 a little bit longer. I want to get some Pyromancers, I think. They're a really great range unit. They've got a really awesome secondary ability. Then next, so Cyclopses are fantastic. Necromancers have a cool ability. I'll have to show you that once I unlock them. Let's go. Yeah, so here's the upgrade from 3 to 4 upgrade options. I don't really bother with that one. Unless, like I said, unless you're going for a very, very specific build. It's not super necessary. It's nice that they have the option there, though. I do appreciate that was put in. I'm going to boost unit health, and I'm going to boost lifesteal. And Paladins are nice too. They've got another self-heal. Theirs is a little bit better than the Cherubs. It's per swing, and they've got a medium attack speed, so they heal twice as much as the Cherubs, and they heal a little bit faster. Pretty solid unit. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Paladins. I want to kind of flesh this out a little bit more. And let's jump to go. I'm going to show my units a little bit of attention now that my spells are getting maxed out. Nice. Okay. Golems are really nice too because they reflect damage onto the attacker. Like I said, Griffins are pretty great. I think I'm gonna go with more Griffins, honestly. Let's do. This is another one. 200 of these. They're really tough, lots of damage. This is another point where you can definitely lose your army if you're not careful. Let's do health. That sounds like a good idea. So Archangels right there in the middle. They have a really awesome self-heal similar to the Cherub. It lets them sustain a lot of hits. I'm actually killing the enemies faster than they can spawn. That doesn't happen too often. Pyromancers, that's what I'm looking for. So they've got good damage, fast attack speed. The range is a little bit shorter, but every 5 attacks they do a fireball that hits everything in a line. Very useful against swarms. Great at later levels when you're just facing massive hordes of enemies. It really helps them whittle away those big groups. So I usually try to have at least a few of these on hand. Necromancers and Cyclopses are like the true end game, but having a couple Pyromancers is nice. Now that I do have Pyromancers and we've seen all of the tier 2s, I'm going to hop up to the tier... No, not yet. I need... Because I don't want to go below that 700. Do I only need another 100 or so? Yeah, I'm pretty close. 3. Yeah. All right. Well, so we'll do one more round. Ooh, Wendigos. Nasty things. Wendigos are very interesting mythology-wise. These are actually more of a like a D&D Wendigo. Traditional Wendigos still have their legs, and aren't fire-themed. I think the fire theme's a little ironic. Ironic's probably the wrong word, but okay, there we go. This next round, this is definitely a boss round. Reduces duration of Frost Shock, specific resistance to that spell. But unfortunately for them, I now have tier 5 units. Archangels, here we go. 40 health every 2 seconds. So they recover a little bit more than twice the amount of health of the cherubs, combined with a high damage and very fast attack speed. If you have any lifesteal, these are a beast of a tank. I'm going to save up now, and I'm going to go for this 1 to 2. So what that means is I get an extra unit every time I pick units. At lower tiers, it's more than a +1. I think it's like a +3. And then at higher tiers, you get less out of it because the units are more powerful. I think it's a pretty solid balancing decision in that area. So this is definitely, if you're going for the tier 5, which you by no means need to, you can, I believe there's an achievement for winning with just tier 1s. Tiers 3 and 4, that's kind of where you're going to want to focus your attention unless you're trying to get those high tier units. And unless you're being very, very careful with your money, you're not going to get to these consistently. I try to get to these guys pretty quickly, and then I get this one, which for the sake of tier 5 just doubles how many you're getting, which is huge. And we'll let's unlock a few of those, and I'll show you what they can do. They can do some really cool stuff. Alright, so Archangels, we've already seen those. They've got that health regen. Frost Giants are neat. They're similar to the Golem, but instead of damage, they actually freeze the attacker. It's only a 30% chance, but in a game like this where they're getting hit a lot, that 30% chance really adds up. And then lastly, we have the Dwarven Construct. This is my personal favorite of the melee units. It just does an AoE. It just hurts everything nearby. Makes it a fantastic unit, absolutely devastating. And 400 health means that these are beasts. These are absolute just walls of stone and rock. So yeah, I'm going to go Dwarven Construct. I'll usually pick these anytime I get the chance, unless the Cyclops or the Necromancer are available. And now I have enough. I'm going to grab this, and let's do another round. So you can see those maxed out spells are absolutely devastating. The maxed out Chain Lightning with the damage upgrades tears through the enemies. Here we've got a choice between the two ranged units of tier 5. Necromancers, short range, so on tier with the Alchemists from tier 2. However, they've got higher damage, they've got a medium attack. Their big thing is they can summon an undead dwarf every 6 attacks. So that's a great way to keep your numbers up. If you've got a lot of necromancers, you'll have a pretty steady stream of undead dwarves going out, giving them a little bit of extra protection. Cyclops are the ultimate ranged unit. They've got high range, very high damage, not a ton of health, but they should be pretty far back to begin with. I'm personally, this run, I'm going to go for necromancers as much as possible. And then you see there's the undead dwarf stats. 129 health with that 39 damage, so that puts them health-wise about a tier 3. So they can summon tier 3s every 6 attacks, which is not bad. And these do benefit from melee unit upgrades, I believe. Actually, let's find out. So this is 39 damage. 43, yes, so these do benefit. Undead dwarves benefit from your melee upgrades, meaning if you boost up their health and their lifesteal, those undead dwarves will go a lot further. And let's do one more spell upgrade. Okay, Cyclopses. 30 gold plus 2 Cyclopses. Absolute no contest. Now, spells I think are pretty solid at this point. I'm going to switch from spell focused to... Oh, I think this might be the last level anyways. Beefing up the melee characters. So, let's fight some dragons. Oh, wow, it actually does a huge chunk of their health. Necromancers. So, there we go. I've won. So that's the main core of the game. The next few levels are the end game. You get no more money income. It's just swarm after swarm after swarm. So at this point, you want to spend all of your money. I'm going to do a quick look, see what my upgrades are looking like. I want to do a bit of range, some more lifesteal, and then I'm just going to buy a ton of units. So let's do necromancers. Let's do dwarven construct. Let's do necromancer. Let's do cyclops. So for these, there's 2 real strategies. You grab what you want, so the units like I'm doing, or you can just go for the highest value one, and that will let you buy more units. So it's a quality over quantity juggle. Usually, I'm getting pretty lucky here. The ones I want seem to be getting pretty good money rolls. So I'm going to keep going with that. Necromancers. I'm just going to go for as many necromancers as I can get, honestly. Construct. Necromancer. Necromancer. Cyclops. Necromancer. 135. And I'm going to do lifesteal. And then because I can. There we go. So there it is. I've spent all of my money. I have 0. I will get no more income after this point. So now it will just be 5 waves, one after the other, trying to get to the end of the game, which comes with bonus rewards. So let's do this. So in this mode, just tons of enemies. Tons of enemies. These aren't individual enemies spawning. These are actually hordes. They're all spawning in the same spot. So 1 out of 5. Like I said, there's 5 end game rounds. I believe I'm also on the easiest difficulty. I should have checked that. No spending, no money, so you can go through these ones pretty fast. So this is a good point in time where you can look and see what units are surviving well. You can see the Archangels are doing well. The Dwarven Constructs are doing amazing. A couple Griffins are okay. So this, I mean, this is, if this is what you're going to build for, this is an optional section, so, but this will give you a good idea of what troops you should focus on. Dropping melee units against the enemy casters, always a good strategy. You see my little horde of undead dwarves running around. There we go. So now it's done. You can go into an endless mode, but you don't get anything else beyond that. You do unlock brutal difficulty, which is what I usually play on. And you can celebrate. Just make stuff spawn. It's a fun little thing. I'm going to back out. Menu. Newest game here. See, here we go. Normal, brutal, and insane. Each beating it unlocks the next difficulty. So here we have brutal. Enemies have more health, and you get more rewards. And then lastly, insane. Enemies have more health, but you get over twice as many of the blood shards. I don't recall if there's a difficulty after that. I'm pretty sure I've beaten it on insane before, so I think that's the highest it goes. But if we go back, power-ups, this is your main kind of focus between runs. You can spend those shards to unlock different upgrades. You can also refund them at any time, which is always a nice thing to have in games. There's a couple different modes. Let me see. So we've got, this is blood shard upgrades. You can either do all or choose. So choose limits how many you can have active at a time. So if I go back to power-ups, it refunds all of mine. And I can have up to 1,200 bloodstone upgrades active at a time. I personally enjoy being just as powerful as possible, and I max out everything. It's also important to note, too, if you're doing the limited runs, these gold upgrades do not apply to those. These are just straight-up upgrades that you can get. Pyromancer, Necromancer are both blood shard upgrades, as is the Frost Shock, the Fire Tornado, and I did not have teleport unlocked yet. And you can see it does say right here, does not count towards the max of 1200 blood shards. Rerolls. The skeletons, this is a neat one. So enemies, if they die, they have a chance to drop a skeleton. The skeletons come back and they fight for you. Higher tier units have a higher chance of dropping skeletons. So that was a neat upgrade that was added fairly recently. Starting units, increased health to units, increased melee, range damage, increased range is awesome. Projectile speed is a nice little touch. Gold victory. So this is just more gold. So higher income. This is really, really great. Gold in this has such a huge impact. Bonus gold. This is what lets you go. Normally, it's 500 is the cap for that that interest income. 700 becomes the cap. So this is a really nice touch. Spell damage, as you have all seen, I like the spells. Make sure to grab these before I spend all of my points. There we go. So now I have all the rerolls. The only thing I don't have is the healing and the teleport. I don't really use healing. Healing wave is pretty powerful, especially if you're doing kind of a low or mid-tier build. It's a great way to keep your units alive. Bless is awesome on the high tier units. It let me see if it'll. One of these starts with Bless, I believe. No. Okay. So healing wave, it heals allies. It's basically chain lightning, but for healing. Bless targets a single unit, heals them, gives them health regen, boosts their damage. It just makes one unit way more powerful. It's a very great spell to combo with a tier 5 unit. So overall, very solid game, ton of fun, still actively supported. Very, very much appreciate this game developer. If you like this game, if you like what you saw, definitely check it out. Check out their new Auto Battler. It's got a lot of the same themes as this one. I believe it uses a lot of the same characters and things. Check out their Discord. And thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, would you kindly like and subscribe? If you didn't like, please comment and tell me what I can do better. I'm always trying to improve. Either way, make sure you hit that little bell icon so you don't miss my next video. Goodbye.